Next is informational items. Stacy has the finance report.
It is recommended to pay the bills as follows. General fund, $358,629.32. Food service, $74,819.86. Capital projects, $44,236.50. Activity account, $19,865.67. And then we have the audit presentation.
And at this point, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bring Tyler Baker on as our lead audit, and he will be sharing with you the presentation of the audit, and you have his PowerPoint. If I can get this to work. Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Tyler?
How do I sound? How do I sound?
Got the thumbs up from the audience.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you for the introduction. As you said, my name's Tyler Baker. I'm a senior manager at Maynard Costerison. And we're going to go over a few documents here in front of you in regards to the audit report for Dowagiac Union Schools as of 6/30 of 2023. First off, I want to thank Stacy and Jonathan and their team for all of their efforts. It is not a small amount of time that we take up when we're on site, and obviously their day-to-day jobs do not stop while we're there, so we are well aware of that, but we appreciate their availability and their responsiveness to all of our requests. We greatly appreciate it. I'm thinking, Jonathan, that the best approach is probably to do questions at the end, but if there's a burning question, feel free to wave me down and we can stop and answer at any point. So right now, what we're going to do is flip through the PowerPoint. All the information within this document is extracted from the actual bound audit report that you should also probably have in front of you. But for ease of time and ease of reading, I've extracted some of the key areas that I want to discuss. If you guys flip through the first page, this says audit results. So this is a synopsis of our independent auditor's report, which in the actual bound report is the first 3 pages. What that is those are the only 3 pages that are ours as the independent auditor. The rest of the financials are that of the district, but within that independent auditor's report, it gives our opinion on the financial statements. And what the opinion was this year was an unmodified or clean opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that us as independent auditors can provide on a set of financial statements, stating that they are in accordance with GAAP, which is consistent with previous years, but is always a good note for the board to know as well. The next page with the header, government-wide net position. So the governmental financial statements in school districts have 2 different sets of financial statements. They have one set which includes long-term assets, such as capital assets and long-term debt and pension liability, and then one that does not. So the schedule on the left there is the only place that shows a comparison of a balance sheet, so assets and liabilities for the district, which includes items of long-term nature. A couple items that I want to touch base on. Total assets, maybe a quarter of the way down that schedule, very consistent from year to year overall. But you will note the current and other assets, which includes cash and investments, decreased in the prior year of approximately $1.2 million, with a corresponding increase in capital assets as well. So that's mainly due to the purchase of capital outlay throughout the year, and just that reclassification between cash and investments and that capital outlay. Total liabilities, which is about the middle of the table, increased from $79 million to just over $93 million. The vast majority of that is due to the net OPEB and net pension liability, which increased. The OPEB liability increased $700,000, and the net pension liability increased $16 million. We will go into a little bit of more detail of why that is the case based on timing of the plan's year end. And then the long-term liabilities at the top of that total liability section decreased approximately $2 million, and that's due to the required bond payments for the amortization schedules. Overall net position increased $4.4 million. That's mainly due to with the items in long-term nature, capital assets as well as pension adjustments throughout the year as well. Next page with the header balance sheet, governmental funds. So this kind of just shows a total of where the assets and liabilities are for the two major funds for the district, which is the general fund or the main operating fund, and then the capital projects building and site fund as well. We're going to look at that far right column, which is the total governmental funds, which includes all funds for the district, with total assets of just under 11.5 million. That was 12.6 million in the prior year, and that's due to the spending down of those capital outlay in regards to the capital projects purchases. Total liabilities were 4.3 million in the current year, in the prior year, and in the current year were just under 3.5 million. That's mainly due to work at year end in the prior year compared to the amount of different projects in the current year. So that's purely due to timing of invoice payments. With fund balance ending total governmental funds just under 8 million, with the prior year being 8.3 million. And we'll look at what the net income or change in fund balance is on the next page for the total district as well. So the next page is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, or a summarized view of the income statement. The left column is the general fund. The middle of that table, you can see the net change in fund balance. At year end, there was a decrease in fund balance for the general fund of 182,000, taking the fund balance from 5.1 million to 4.9 million, or 17.5% of total expenditures in regards to the general fund. Capital projects, as we noted, had 856,000 worth of expenditures in the current year, netted with transfers in for a net change in fund balance of 239,000, taking that fund balance down from 1.3 million to just over 1 million. Total non-major funds is that third column. This includes funds such as the food service fund, student activities, another capital projects fund, and then debt service fund as well. So this is a combined for what's known as non-major funds, and that's a net increase in fund balance of 60,000 from 1.8 to 1.9 million. The next page is a little comparison of general fund balances as a percentage. And there is a slight typo that I noted. That percentage for the general fund school years for DUS is actually their current year balance. So that's 22-23's percentage of 17.5. And what we have is the total ISD, all the locals general fund average, and then is statewide average. And you'll notice that is 21-22, obviously due to timing of them not being due to the state until 11/1. They're a year behind. For the information. But you'll notice Dowagiac with a 17.5% fund balance prior year was approximately 19%, so kind of to compare apples to apples. So the general fund for the district was right at that statewide average in regards to the general fund balance. Obviously, once the 11/1 come out, due date hits and the state collects all of the information, they will then release the fund balance for 22-23. The next schedule is a 3-year trend of governmental funds revenue. So what I like to show here is just the general slight uptick in revenue. Some of that is due to local sources in regards to property tax base. The large majority of that over from 21 to 22 was due to federal sources for one-time ESSER-related funding and expenditures. And then the main increase from 22 to 23 is due to one-time funding from the state in regards to pension contributions. So basically a funding and then a required payment a few weeks later to the state, which kind of shows that increase in state revenue, even though there's a corresponding expenditure, which if I can have you flip to the next page, will show that slight increase as well, which shows a slight increase overall from 21 to 22 and then 22 to 23. Again, that increase in spending to a large degree is due to that one-time payment from the state in regards to the 147C2 funding source. So overall, a good, consistent, steady trend upward of both revenues and expenditures, which is what we like to overall see from districts and entities. Roller coasters are not easy to plan for, and so that slight increase year over year is what we generally like to see from a planning side of things. The next page is the budget to actual for the general fund. You can see the 4 columns being the original budget, approved, the final budget, actual, and then a variance with the final budget. Anticipated in the final budget was a net change of a fund decrease of approximately $400,000, with actual decrease being $182,000. That's a positive variance with the final budget of $261,000. As a percentage of final expenditures, final budget expenditures is less than 1% variance. In budgeting terms, that is very good. We generally like to see in the 2-3% range at the high end without any unknown changes. So a sub 1% is very good on the budgeting side of things. The next page is pension and OPEB. So here's a couple snapshots, and these are included in the notes of the financial statements as well. But what this shows, I think, is a good total statewide where the funding is, and then how that kind of applies and is allocated towards the district. That top section is for pension. That left column, September 30th of 22, that's the plan year end. So all of the balances are in regards to the MIPSR's school plan year end, which is 9/30. Total pension liability as of 9/30, you can see increased from approximately 86 billion to just under 96 billion. That's mainly due to a change in assumption. So the assumed rate of return went from 6.8% down to 6%, which increases that liability. So that's the main driver of that increase in the liability. And then also the planned fiduciary net position, one line below that, decreased from 62.7 billion to 58 billion, even with all of those contributions made throughout the state throughout the year, and that's due to market return. So if you kind of think about what the market looked like as of 9/30 of 22, it was not the greatest. And so a lot of that is due to market concerns, obviously, as that fluctuates from year to year. Net pension liability for statewide increased from 23.7 billion to 37.6 billion, with the district's proportionate share of 0.1167%. That percentage for the net pension liability is $43.9 million. So that's kind of how that increase fluctuates as the statewide adjusts the district's portion. All the district can do in regards to pension and OPEB is to make their monthly invoice payments, which they do. And so those are big numbers, but overall, the only thing that the district can do is make those payments, which they do. If I can have you flip to the next page, this is my favorite page, the schedule of findings and questioned costs. So I like to think of this page kind of as a scoreboard, if you will, of kind of how all of the reporting kind of looked throughout the year in regards to if there were any findings for financial reporting or if there were any findings in regards to federal awards. You can notice that all of those X's are under the no column, which is consistent with last year as well, but I still think is a good item to note. You'll notice under the identification of major programs, there's the Education Stabilization Fund and then the Child Nutrition Cluster. So due to the major fund determination, we were required to test 2 programs in the current year. Both of those programs did not have any non-compliance noted. Major program testing on our end is a high risk under uniform guidance. And so that kind of responsibility and that high risk is then flowed through to the districts in the amount of testing that we were required to do. So no findings in regards to single audits for the major programs is not easy. That's only getting harder year after year. So kudos to the district from that standpoint as well, because that's not an easy feat. That's procedures throughout the whole year in which need to stay in place. And so I think it's important for the board to know that also um, in regards to those major programs. Next page, governance and management letters. So a management letter would be where if we had any findings or we had any substantial recommendations in regards to issues noted throughout the audit process, we would provide those in a separate management letter to the board. We do not have that in the current year, which is consistent with the previous few years as well. With the bond report, you should have a 3-page letter that would have been stapled that you should have with you. You can try to find that letter in all of the pages if you would like, but it's a separate document. But what I will tell you is that it is a boilerplate letter. So this is our required communication to governance. What this talks about is it talks about estimates that are included within the financial statements. It discusses if we had any uncorrected misstatements or any difficulties encountered while going through the audit process. And it is a clean boilerplate letter, meaning that we did not have any issues noted with management throughout the process of the audit, which is exactly what the board would like to see in regards to that communication with governance letter. That is all that I have for you this evening. Any questions, Jonathan?
No questions on our end.
Sounds great. Well, I appreciate you allowing me all to present to you this evening. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tyler. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's loud.
Okay, next up, we have the superintendent's report.
Well, we had so much good news in the audit. And
Okay.
You know, let's call it good for the night.
Okay, that sounds good. Any hearing of citizens this evening? No? Okay. Okay, action items. The consent agenda is listed A through F. Is there any discussion on any of these? No? Okay. I need a motion, please.
I, Carrie Freeman, make the motion to approve items A through F as listed on the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. New business, approval of the Altria settlement. Any discussion on this? No? Okay. Motion, please.
I, Rob Eckes, make the motion to authorize the superintendent to sign the lawsuit settlement documents pertaining to ulterior defendants on behalf of the district and to take such other action as necessary to obtain the settlement amount and to settle the lawsuit against the Altria defendants.
Second.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
In favor? Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, anybody opposed? Meeting's adjourned. And first up tonight is, oh, we don't have hearing citizens. Do we have any, Zoe? No. Okay, thank you. So we're on to presentation for the superintendent search. And first tonight is Craig Schmidt. Welcome, Craig. Nice to see you.
So he's ready. Yep.
Probably right over at the podium, I guess, maybe, or wherever you'd like to be.
And they all say I talk too much. So I've learned that instead of just talking a lot, see what questions people have. So I did put together a one-page document. So let me start by asking you, do you have questions about what I was communicating?
I guess not.
I've got one
Oh,
question,
you
I
do?
guess.
Okay.
Yeah. How many other schools have you done this for in a search?
I have not done this for any schools.
Okay.
My experience is basically in Director of Personnel in Caledonia schools, which I did for 15 years, so my search experience and expertise was there. And that's why I noted it originally, and I thought I might alter that. I said, I'm not proposing to conduct the search. I'm proposing more that I be the board's advocate and counsel as the search goes on. Ruth and Carrie might remember, I was at the last process. I sat through the gathering of public input, and I sat through the public interviews and even asked the candidates a few questions. So I thought if I could be of help to the board, if my services were to the board, it wouldn't be in the mechanics of searching for the superintendent. It would be helping them select the proper superintendent, and even beyond that, establishing an evaluation of the superintendent that's based on the board's beliefs over there, and then have that evaluation include some measurable outcomes toward those beliefs. So.
Anybody else have any questions? Did you want to?
Well, and so what I thought of just recently, the board did ask for options to the search. And so while I did say I wouldn't be interested, I don't have the infrastructure to conduct the actual gathering of candidates and advertising the position, but I could do that. And I did do that when I was with Caledonia Schools. I did the whole 9 yards, but I had clerical staff there that helped me do that. So I would say to the board, I could do that if you'd like to do that, and I'd have to repropose what I'm proposing, but I could do the whole search if I could use some of the clerical and secretarial staff in Dowagiac. That would not be a problem.
Proposing like an evaluation tool, that's included in like a one-time fee, or like, is that, what are your, just explain that more.
Okay, that's in the proposal that I gave you, and the fee includes that. Yes, I would sit with the board and make sure that those beliefs are still the beliefs held by the community, and then the
And you
value.
would develop like a whole, because we have we use our own structured thing.
Absolutely.
Help develop all of
Yes.
that. Okay.
And the outcomes would, the superintendent would be measured by what was in the evaluation. There would be measurable outcomes in the evaluation. Yes, that's That was really a lot of my focus when I was personnel director, evaluating employees, dismissing them.
Does anybody else have anything else to ask? Are you all set?
Yeah, I'm all set.
Okay. Everybody's all set? All right. Okay, I think we're all set. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank
Yes.
you.
Yes. So are they going to come in on their own?
I don't know, I was just going to ask that, do we need to go out and get?
Do we need to go out and get, you're going to go get them? Yes, thank you. Oh, yeah, yeah. Good evening.
Hi.
I'm going to say your name as best I can. Mark, is it Dobios?
It's actually Dobiash,
Dobiash.
just like the S-H-M-N, yes.
Okay, wonderful.
All
Well,
right.
thank you, Mark, for coming this evening.
Thank you for having me. It's good
Uh-huh.
to be here. Want me to go ahead and get started?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I didn't want to send you the PowerPoint or use the PowerPoint presentation that MASB usually uses because I know you're on a timeline. You want to get through it in 20 minutes, so I didn't want to give you more material to read or anything than you need. So my name is Mark Dobiash. I've been a consultant with MASB for the last 6 years since I retired from the Allegan Area Educational Service Agency as superintendent. I did a stint in Fenville as well. Been working for MASB as a consultant ever since, facilitating searches, leading classes, workshops, superintendent evaluations, that sort of thing. I also work part-time for a little human resources firm out of Okemos when they have searches in the school community for like finance directors and that kind of thing. So obviously I like to stay connected to schools, so thank you for having me here. I'm just gonna, I took the liberty of just putting the presentation in the form of timeline to show you kind of what you could expect if you work with MASB. So the first thing is a preparation phase that I thought would neatly fit into the idea of starting sooner rather than later. In that preparation phase, one of the most important things is getting input from your stakeholders. And I've listed some of the groups there. Do that a couple different ways, face-to-face meetings, Zoom meetings, and I like coming on site and meeting with groups and individuals as well. The purpose behind those meetings are, the stakeholder meetings are, one, to learn about the strengths and the challenges of the district, and the second thing is to build a profile of the ideal candidate. People will be asked and will tell me what they think are the strengths and the attributes and the skills and the background that people ought to have. And so we use that to draft a profile of that candidate, and which would come to the board, of course, for approval and that kind of thing. And then that would be used to construct the posting, and along with that, we would need to have finalize a search timeline and have a salary range on the posting and that kind of thing, which would take a board meeting and would take some discussion and that kind of thing. And again, this timeline is just to illustrate, okay, it's not one that I think is for you, it's just one to illustrate. After you get a formal posting up, you have a recruitment phase that runs probably somewhere around 6 weeks. And you can see I've got 2 months on there, but the last part of that is getting you the information on the candidates so you can make a decision about who you want to interview. But during that time, that recruitment phase, I'm busy reaching out to my colleagues across the state and also reaching out to people that I think may be interested in the position. Board members are always encouraged to give me the name of someone that they think might be a good fit here, and I will reach out to those people. I ask you not to do that. Just let that come to me. I am also silently vetting candidates during that period of time. I'm trying to do it quietly because one of the things we talk to our candidates about is to promise them confidentiality because many candidates will not want their boards to know that they're looking at another position until the time that they know they're going to interview for a position. And during that time, you'll get the information from at the end of it for all the candidates. We won't hold anything back. We'll give it to you all. We will also give you a tiered list of candidates, but we stop short of recommending candidates. We say these are the ones that best meet the candidate profile that you established, and take it from there. One of the things that we try to do is keep everything in the open, everything above board. In the searches I've done, which are probably close to 20 now, there's only one time we've ever gone into closed session. Okay, and I'll explain what that was about a little bit later here, but we try to do it all out in the open. And so if candidates want to be remain confidential until the time they interview, how do you do that in an open session? How do you discuss and select candidates? And we do it by number, okay? So we assign them a number instead of a name, and we can have an open discussion. But I think it's good for the community to see that. We set interviews, usually a couple nights, and during that interview phase, you also select finalists. And the decision phase then would be second round interviews, a community meet and greet. It would have optional candidate assessments. And in your packet, at the back of your packet, you see some of the reports from candidates' assessments. And this is the one time that I told you that we went into a closed session was to talk to a Board of Education about the assessments for candidates. So that's perfectly allowable to go in closed session for that. And this is something that only one district I've ever been involved with, have ever done the assessments. And quite honestly, I just don't get it. Because for $390 per finalist, you can glean some outstanding information that will help you make your decision. Information about how the person operates and what kind of acumen and what kind of skills they have. For instance, mental acuity is one of the aptitudes that's measured. And you can see 1 to 9 in the scale. So you might think that someone that's a 1 on that scale would be automatically eliminated. And someone with a 9 would be the kind of person you're automatically looking for. But there's things that are built into that. We had candidates in one search where the 2 finalists, one of them had a 1. So a 1. She was also a PhD. Talk to her about what she did in college. I studied all the time. That's what I did. I had to work very hard. I had to work diligently. I didn't have time for social life and that kind of thing. Not that that's a good thing, but shows you she was able to overcome those challenges, you know, based on that. Another person that's a 9, this is a person that can maybe think they're the smartest person in the room and might not want to collaborate. So there's different edges to it. Just because somebody's a 9 doesn't make they're the candidate. And, you know, those are the areas that are measured. But I think they can give really good information. That bracketed area is kind of like the middle range, okay? That's in there, so. But, you know, look at competitiveness. Someone's a team player or they're individualists. Are they going to do it by themselves or are they going to involve other people in the decision making? The other one is probably a little more popular. It's called the DISC. And that talks about their leadership styles. And you can see this was somebody's actual DISC test, DISC assessment. And on the back, you can see, second to the last page here, you can see what each one of those areas meant. Okay, so there's a dominant score, an influencing score, a steadiness score, and a compliance score. I talked to a superintendent last week who has this posted on his door outside his office because he wants people to know when they're coming into a meeting what they're dealing with. And I think his entire leadership team has that as well. So I'm going to swing back to the decision phase again real quickly. Ultimately, you're going to get one candidate to begin contract negotiations with. You might have a site visit. I used to think site visits weren't necessary anymore, but the districts I've had that have done them have felt really, really good about them. Then you enter contract negotiations, and it's not final till the board approves that final contract that's been negotiated. One of the things I want to highlight too, it's a very community, parent, staff friendly process. From being able to give input on the front end on the skills and attributes you're looking for, to interviews where before you decide, for instance, someone to bring back for a second round, you would read feedback from the audience members. Okay, we try to avoid having audience members stand up and say, this is what I think, this is who I think you should hire, this is who I think you should bring back for a second interview. But we do want their input, and they put it in writing. And you will all have an opportunity and be asked to read all the information from audience members. Audience members can pose a question if there's time remaining. And that's the same case after the second round interview as well, that they would be allowed to have that feedback. You'd take a break after the interviews, and during that time, you'd read the feedback from the audience members. People will write feedback and from the meet and greet with the community. Here's my impressions from just meeting with the superintendent candidate for a few minutes and that kind of thing. And then very important, the ongoing support phase. Establishing roles and responsibilities, roles and relationships workshop, getting that date on the calendar so MASB can come in and kind of work with both groups to get some common understandings. Certainly your district onboarding, we can help with that. Board may want to consider a mentor. There's an MASB area rep. And then as you know, there are a whole variety of MASB districts and that kind of thing, or excuse me, services, from customized workshops to evaluation training to facilitating evaluations. So I don't know where I'm at with my 20 minutes, but I want to entertain any questions.
I didn't really get a chance to go through the whole thing. Do you have a fee? Can you tell us what your fee might be?
Yes, the fee for MASB for the search is $6,000 plus expenses. And expenses are mileage, could be meals, could be lodging, that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
I know one of the things we want to make sure we do well this time, not that we didn't do, well, I don't know, we did use you guys last time, I think Ruth and I were the only two that were on the board then. We did use MASB last time, and it went well. We did not have as much community, I don't think.
We didn't.
Community, we tried to do the, you know, the meetings and the, what do you guys want in the surveys? What's your vision for that? Like, how are you going to get community engagement before we even, you know, so we can make a good profile for our ideal candidate?
Well, I'm going to work with the district to establish a list of people that are desired to meet with and a calendar. And, you know, you're starting so early in this process, you've got lots of time to advertise and plan for those meetings and that kind of thing. And I would look also to the board, if there are certain groups that you feel it's important for me to talk to, you know, I can reach out individually to those groups and that kind of thing too. I facilitated one search, for instance, where it was really important to reach out to the Latino community. And we had representatives from the Latino community that, you know, participated and provided us with some written feedback on that kind of thing. That was very helpful. But if the group of clergy, if there's a clergy association in the area, and that's an important group. But if there are those pockets, you know, we can set up individual meetings with those pockets of people and that kind of thing. But other than that, you know, you'd want to hit your staff hard and get times that work well for them to attend, or perhaps maybe even Zoom, because sometimes that's just a lot easier for people who have a family and they have to get home to kids and that kind of thing. But maybe you can set some times during the day. Certainly want to meet with the administrative team. I'd like to have a phone call conversation with every board member. And there's a series of questions that we ask and that kind of thing. I think a couple groups of students is very important. You know, in meeting with teachers, you know, I don't know what your elementary configurations are and like that, but it's certainly a meeting for elementary teachers, middle school teachers, a meeting for high school teachers. We try to keep each one of those like a half hour, 45 minutes, something like that. But, you know, the biggest thing I think is getting those things out there advertised and communicated to the necessary groups. You know, I don't know if you have a Chamber of Commerce. Again, I would need some help and direction on what those groups should be.
Thanks.
And having said that, 80% of the responses will come in on the online survey.
Okay.
So that's important to have ways of getting that out there too.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you
I'd
very
love
much.
the opportunity to do your search, facilitate your search, but you know, you've got other good options too, and I certainly respect the decision, whatever direction you go, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So where are you going to get the next, or is he? He's coming, okay. Go ahead. Good evening. Dave Killips? Yes. welcome. Should we introduce ourselves probably to them? Or not? No, we don't. Yeah. Yes, please. Oh, absolutely. Ruth Osra. So nice to meet you. Glad you came, yes.
Nice to meet you. Hi, Christina. I'm Dave Killips. I'm with the Michigan Leadership Institute. Michigan Leadership Institute has been around for over 25 years doing searches, strategic planning, executive coaching, negotiations, just about anything you can imagine for a district. A school district does that. Now, I know Jonathan shared some information with you ahead of time about our organization, probably had a PowerPoint in it and a lot of advertising stuff and so forth, but what I would like you to really focus on as we go through this, because I know the time is limited, in your packet you should have a calendar. If not, I think I have extras with me, if that'll help.
Or no, my line, it's even back here further. Yeah, that one.
Thank you very
When you
much.
get a notebook full of stuff, how difficult that can be.
Thank you.
I think this is the easiest way to go through the process, so you will all understand it and get a grasp of what this means. When we were first contacted, Mr. Wan talked about trying to get this done around spring break, shortly thereafter, and so forth. So I've put together 2 calendars for you, just as drafts to show you how this would work. I'm going to go down the orange dates with you tonight to take you through the process, what this all includes. And I've done this just under 50 searches in the state of Michigan now. I think you have a list of the districts I've done, plenty of them around here. I live over in St. Joe, so I'm not far away. So I've done a lot in southwestern Michigan. But let's start with this. So going down the orange dates, obviously we have the board presentation tonight. This first one's going to get us done just prior to spring break, all right? And the reason for that is once you get into January and February, all of a sudden superintendents start announcing their retirement. So Jonathan has done this district a big favor by announcing very early and allowing you to get to the trough earlier than other districts. So December 8th, what I would ask for the Board of Education is each one of you would submit to me your answers to those 3 questions just below there. What are the unique skills, qualifications, and characteristics desired in a new superintendent? What are the challenges facing the next, you in the next 3 to 5 years? And what are your points of pride? Remember, this is a two-way street. We are trying to recruit people to Dowagiac, not just put it out there and let people come to us. So we want to be able to do that. So we need the points of pride. Each one of you would give me your answers. They don't need to be in paragraphs or long statements or anything else. They can just be in bullet points. I will then create a document and share that with the entire board. Here's what each individual board member is thinking about these 3 particular questions. I will not identify who submitted what information, but it gives you an idea of where the other board members are, okay? You'll be surprised at how much commonality there is in those answers, I believe. So then, December 11th through the 15th, we would run those 3 questions on your website for anybody in the community to answer, okay? So, again, anonymous. We're not going to ask them if they're a parent or a teacher or a student or whatever. We are not interested in that. We are interested in their honest perception of Dowagiac Union Schools and what we can do to improve them. Because the school district, just like all the students, we should be asking for continual improvement as we go through this. And that's what we're after. Once those are all submitted on the 15th, we'll cut it off at 3 or 4 o'clock that afternoon. The district will download those to me. I will review them, and then I will send them all to the board members. So now you have a second set of input data that you can look at. Thirdly, and this date is December 13th, I would come into the district for a day, and I would meet with focus groups. So I'm talking about staff members, I'm talking about administrators, I'm talking about parents, booster clubs, talking about Rotarians, Optimist Club, your service club members, your ministerial association, any group that you think it's important that I meet with. This is not a community input group, okay? So we're not asking the entire community to come in. Remember, they're focus groups. They are people that have been intimately involved with your school district. Students have been, so we certainly want to include them as one of these groups. I will take notes in every one of those meetings I hold, asking the same 3 questions as listed above. You will get all my notes. I'm not going to hide anything. I want to make it very, very clear. Board members are not invited to these focus groups, because if you step foot in there, you're going to change that conversation. We want, again, honest, forthright answers as we go through this. But again, you're going to get everything. Nothing is going to be hidden from you. It's complete transparency on everybody's part. So that's your third set of input data that you have now received. So from all of that input, I'm going to create a profile and posting of the job. It is not a job description. It is a profile. We're going to want somebody with good communication skills. We're going to want somebody that understands state finances. We're going to want somebody that collaborates, who is approachable and visible in a district. In all honesty, I can write about 90% of that right now for you, because it's going to be the same in every school district I go to. However, that last 10%, what is different about Dowagiac? What is different that we need to look for somebody a little bit different here? That can mean a lot of things. I mean, this is the second audit I've sat through in 2 weeks from different school districts. I thought I gave that up a number of years ago. Those things could be, if your scores are not where you'd like them, your student scores, you might lean towards somebody with a strong instructional background. If your finances were in disarray, you might want to lean towards somebody with that financial acumen to help you out. If you have a culture problem, you might want to lean towards somebody that is strong in building cultures within a district or within a building. So I will write that profile, I will send it out to each and every board member and ask you to look at it. And hopefully you'll give me your approval, not board action, just individually saying it looks good, or maybe we forgot to add something, or maybe we shouldn't mention this. I can revise it, but I would like to get it out prior to Christmas, December 20th. The reason for that is a superintendency is a 24/7 job. It means family is important. Okay? And so let people have time to have the discussions with their family. They might come down over Christmas break and visit Dowagiac. All right? They may not know a whole lot about it. What makes this place tick? What community events are going on over the holidays and so forth. So give them time to learn more about the district as well. We would then close the posting about 2 months later, February 23rd. All right? And then on February 29th, I would meet with the board. This will be the only time that the Board of Education can go into closed session. And that's if and only if the candidate asks for confidentiality. That's according to the Open Meetings Act. And part of my job is to keep us all out of jail. We don't look good. I was going to say an orange with stripes, but I guess I have orange stripes, so I don't have the number. That's what I'm missing. But that night, we're going to go through the applications carefully, all right? I will know the good, bad, you'd like to say ugly, but maybe not so good on candidates. My job is to do the groundwork with all these candidates, find out the reference checking, find out what's positive, what's negative, and what might be a good fit for Dowagiac. Now, some of the other organizations, to be very honest with you, and Mark and I grew up 10 minutes apart, okay? He grew up in Ludington, I grew up in Ludington, he grew up in Scottville. So we've known each other for a long time. But we do the research. Reason being, checking these references out, I can call virtually anybody in the state of Michigan in education and find out about these folks. You as board members, if you call a sitting superintendent in another district, you may not get the open and honest answer. I've done this plenty. Our organization is made up of long-standing retired superintendents at the local and ISD level. We know what the job takes. We know that every decision you make is not going to be accepted by all. I mean, you can't even call a snow day without somebody arguing about it anymore. So we realize that, but we need to hunt down those red flags and find out what they're about. So that's where I come in. We don't ask for letters of reference anymore. We haven't for 6 or 7 years. You say, why not? Have you ever read a bad one? Okay, we don't need more reading material. I'm going to pick up the phone and call. For example, this morning I was calling on a candidate for another district, and the superintendent that answered me said, well, just send me the questions in writing and I'll answer you back. And I texted him and said, well, this is what it's about. This is what we're doing. 2 seconds later, my phone rang. He understood the importance of having that confidential conversation. And confidentiality is absolutely crucial as we go through this process. However, as a Board of Education, you need to know all the information that's out there on these candidates. I'm not going to hide anything from you, and I'm not going to hide anything from the candidates, okay? We want a good marriage when this whole thing is done. That's the important thing. We want a good marriage, and somebody's there that's going to be promoting all kids as we go through this. So then, the 29th, that night, closed session, you'll be reviewing applicants. Every applicant's going to have a number. Number 1 isn't any better than number 2 or number 3 or number 4, just the way they came off the system. I will have them divided into different groups. Group A, they meet everything you're looking for and have great reference checking. Group B may be just missing a thing or two, but some people you want to potentially consider. In Group C, in all honesty, you wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, all right? They've done something illegal or detrimental to the district they've been in, and obviously you may not want to go down that road in Dowagiac. But you'll be presented with every single candidate, and you'll have access to all the application materials. Again, full transparency. That night, we'll come back out into open session. We'll go through a process of identifying the candidates you would like to interview. In this situation, I've set up March 11th, 12th, and 13th for interviews. Most districts interview between 4 and 6 candidates. That is totally your call. I'm involved in a district right now that's only interviewing 3. I've never had a district going over 6. That's why we have 3 nights of interviews. Also, it gets it on your calendar, and if we only need 2 nights, it's easier to open up a date than to try and find another date for you to interview on. So then we would do those interviews. I will help you prepare the interview. The first round is scripted, so every candidate gets the same questions. So there is no discrimination by any means with this. We will have the audience that will be able to give you input on the interviews that took place, and they will be able to write questions that may be used in the second round of the interviews. All right, and we will consider those as we develop the second round. So when we're all done with the, let's say, 6 interviews on the 13th, we will stay here. And this board will then go through another process identifying who you would like to bring back for the final round of interviews. We have those scheduled on March 21st, according to the orange calendar there. They would come in, it would be a second interview. The second interview does not need to be scripted, because we can build the interview off of some of the answers they provided in the first round. So they do not need to be all alike. My guess is some of the questions will be similar, but not all of them. In between that first and second round, we like to have the candidates do a visitation to the district here, spend a half a day in the district going through the buildings with the principals, maybe some teachers. We want to see how they relate to the people in Dowagiac. I retired out of Chelsea over by the Ann Arbor area. And just because I think I was successful there, just because I was successful there does not make me the right fit for here. So I come here, if I can't speak to the people, if I can't ask the right questions, if it just is uncomfortable, we will pick that up. So we're kind of looking at those soft skills that people have, because again, you want somebody that's approachable and visible. I'll give you a quick example. When they replaced me in Chelsea for the second time, because I ended up going back after I retired, boom. They had a candidate that was about 6'4". We had a lower elementary building, K2 building. He walked into that building. Now, understand this is pre-COVID. What do kindergartners and first graders and second graders do? They come up and hug you. They give you a high five, a fist bump, whatever. I mean, anytime I walked in there, I knew I had to go to the dry cleaners the next day to take my pants in. That's just the way it is going into the elementary. The little kids approached him. He took a step back. Our board members noticed that, and that was kind of the end of that. Okay, so again, it's got to be the right fit for this community. My job is to bring you quality candidates. My other job is to make this process as easy as possible on you. How many of you have been through a superintendent search before? 2, okay? I've done almost 50 of them. I think I have a process that works. I would be, contact any of the school districts on that list of districts we have. That are small districts or large districts. There's districts from 200 kids up to 35,000 kids. All right, so I've done an array of those. I don't live far away, okay, so you have access to me. You will always be able to email me, call me, whatever you want. I'm here to make this process work for you. I live in St. Joe, all right, 25 minutes away, or 30 minutes away, so not bad at all. After we're done with those second interviews, we're going to ask you to make a decision, all right? 2 times when it's extremely important that we have a 7-0 vote. It's hiring a new CEO, and it's going out to your community asking for money. Okay? I know there's 7 different views on this Board of Education, but when you're bringing in a new CEO, it's really important to try to get to a 7-0 vote. Okay? People could turn down the job if they don't have full board support walking in, and you need to realize that. As you are interviewing them, they are also interviewing you. This is a 2-way street. You are hiring the head honcho, the most important decision you make for the next few years here. Average life expectancy of a superintendent in a position is 2.7 years in Michigan. Not very long. A lot of districts beat that. All right, we can name districts around here that have beaten that. We can name some districts that have struggled as well. Leadership is important. We firmly believe that. We want to get the right person for you. The pool is not deep out there right now. Please understand that. But we've been able to put quality candidates in front of every Board of Education. That's the important part. We want to give you a choice. We want to give you good people and good educational leaders. I will be quiet after I mention one other thing. Between now and when you start this process, please get your superintendent contract vetted by your attorneys. Stipulations change in contracts, okay? Every time you change superintendents, you better run that contract by your attorney to make sure it has the latest and greatest updates in it. Okay? Questions?
I have a couple questions here. So, so we've got, when do you go do the visits? When do you go to the schools or the communities and do the visits? Between the first and the second, you would do that? You didn't mention when that would happen.
We don't have a date there because that's going to depend. We like to have 2 board members with the candidates doing that visit because it's you that are going to look at those soft skills and see how they interact with the people from Dowagiac, okay?
Is that, I think, is that after we've chosen the second round? Is it after the first round, after we're down to like 2 or 3?
Between the first and second round.
Perfect, yes. And
Okay.
that is definitely something, I mean, that's important to me, but I think maybe to most of the board, but, so then, just out of curiosity, what do you, on the first group, I know nobody can know, but how many, what's the average for this group? How many people generally do you get that apply? It can be anywhere, I know that's a silly question probably, but
It's
the average,
right now, it's probably going to be in the teens.
okay?
Okay, I say that, and we just did Muskegon a couple years ago, and they had 49.
Ooh.
And then we had an absolutely outstanding position that was out there, top paid in the state. We had 7. The size that Dowagiac is, about 1,800 kids roughly, you have a good chance of getting a rookie superintendent, somebody that's never served before. You have to understand that. And people get down on that a little bit. But every superintendent in this state of Michigan was a rookie at one point. Somebody saw some potential in them and let them lead the way. That up-and-comer is not a bad way to go. You may get somebody with some superintendent experience. You don't know. You may get somebody that has a lot of superintendent experience. They're from this area and want to get back here. Those things have all happened. So I hate to give you a number, and in all honesty, Ruth, I do not like to project numbers. I want quality
yeah.
people in front of you.
So then the group A, B, and C, when do you do that? You pick those groups?
Yep.
And is that before the first interview or in between the two?
That'll be before we review the candidates.
Before?
Right.
The beginning?
And,
Okay,
and
perfect.
I do not have a dog in this race, okay? Not at all. That information is there based on the research I've done on these candidates and what their experience is. If you decide that you want to interview a candidate out of that third group, that is a board decision. I am not going to make any decisions for you. I will give you all the information to help you make decisions. I will answer any questions you have, but I don't get a vote. 7 of you do.
And during the posting, since you know a lot about the area, do you actively recruit as well, or say, hey, if it's, a high school principal that, or whatever, you would actively do that as well?
Yes, and I can honestly tell you, I've had a couple people already ask me if I'm doing this search. But I don't know that, but so people are already looking a little bit. And that's part of the power of Jonathan announcing early.
Okay.
So yes, we recruit.
Okay.
So when the finalists visit, like you said, the schools, the classrooms and so forth, you did say that there would be board members with them?
Yes.
Okay, and then are you also with?
No.
No, just board.
I usually am not. I haven't been in
okay.
years, I guess. But we have the board members then, before they make their final decision, give a report back to the full board. These are some things that we noticed. We want to make you aware of this. Usually, they fit in well. They've had good questions. They were able to talk to students and parents readily without any problem. I mean, if we've done our homework and we bring good people to you, some of those things ought to be automatic for them.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anybody else have any other questions? Okay.
You've got our fees of $6,200.
That's what I was going to ask. Yes.
Okay, $6,200. I think the expenses are listed at not to exceed $800. The only thing you're going to pay for is mileage for me, and it's not much. Okay? I mean, I live 25 miles away. I think 23 miles is what my GPS told me, so not very far. Okay?
Okay.
Would love to work with Dowagiac. Look forward to hearing from you one way or the other, hopefully. And again, I wish you luck. And don't pick Mark. I mean, I could tell, he's a good guy too, all right? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. You too. Thank you so much. We're pretty proud of it.